I'm going to start by asking each of the panel to give a very, very clear, succinct 5-minute conversation or comment on what they think lies ahead. I've got a series of other questions and topics to talk about, but I'd almost like to start with, what is your vision, expectation, and what lies ahead in the yacht building market? You're ex-Benetti Group, so you must have a very interesting view.
Am I optimistic or not? That's your question.
That's the question.
As it has been said this morning, I believe that this market has some key drivers, which are passion of our customers, and an endless desire of freedom. And that is these are probably drivers which will never disappear. We can also measure that the desire to have access to that, let's say, passion, pleasure, and freedom is very largely shared. So the question is more, are we offering an economic access to these new customers? And is the marine environment promising a future as it was in the past, given all the environment threats that we can feel from time to time in Mediterranean Sea as well as in other parts of the world? So these are probably the two main concerns that we have, to keep an accessible way to boats to the largest number of people, and to offer them a field of pleasure which could be protected and preserved.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Paolo, please, your perspective on what lies ahead.
The perspective not easy to make, but after talking since 2 years of a possible crisis, I start thinking positive. The crisis didn't come, and I think will not come in the next years. I have read the forecast of the luxury goods, and they expect an increase of their business between 3% and 5% in the next 5 years. Difficult to make any forecast wider than 5 years. But I think that the yachting business, if I have to give a number, can position itself in this scissor. Maybe for the first year, a little on the lower end of the scissor, but going ahead in the high end of the scissor. I call this a certain stability, and following also the point you have raised by calling this event, I think we have to use this period, hopefully, of stability to change things, to become more competitive, to attract new guys on the market, to make strong our companies, and last but not least, to have an identity of the sport which is growing the personality of the people, which is close to the nature, which is forming the character of the young guys. So we have to try to make new messages, different from the messages we had up to now. If I have only 2 minutes now, I come back on this because I have my own ideas. But let's say that I think this moment is an historical moment to grow. Not to grow in size, but to mature as a business capable to attract new people. And one of the major points of the maturity is the protection of the environment. Because only by combining the dream of the yacht with the solidity of the builder, but more of everything, with the pleasure to go along our sea, we can have a success. And we can have the success of grow our young people towards becoming more mature, more passionate, and more naturalistic, careful.
Thank you, Paolo. Antony.
I'd like to echo some of the comments of Paolo. I think we're living in right now, a rather unique moment. We've had strong, sustained growth for many years, and this is on the back of we're in a unique industry that's both luxury goods and experiences like travel in a very industrial setting. And the first two have had tremendous growth over the last years, and so in a unique way we have motor yachts that have a strong tailwind. And that's a very good time for us to think about how does this translate going into the future. The nautical industry, it's easy to get complacent, to say things are going to continue to grow, we just need to make our boats nicer with more space and one more cabin and more features and more luxurious and more beautiful. But the issue of sustainability is going to become something that we're going to have to understand what it means in the nautical sector. I'm fortunate enough to be still involved with some electric car makers, and I will tell you that what's going on in the auto industry is transformational for an industry. And it will happen in other industries, it will happen in the nautical industry, but it's not going to happen in the same way. And we need to understand what we can do to position our companies to grow this industry in a way that is more sympathetic to the environment, not just to have a good, strong social conscience, but also to attract a future generation of buyers for whom that's extremely important. So that does not mean that people are going to stop yachting or we're going to stop building motor yachts and go to electric sailboats, but it means that we have to think of a new construct of how this industry is going to evolve.
Yeah, I agree entirely. Max, final comment.
Yes, I confirm the same opinion of Paolo and Antony. Positive view for the future, but I think we have to be very careful because we cannot say there is no uncertainty in the world. We have the experience that it's enough to have one wrong tweet or message from a special telephone number and things change a lot. So I think that I would confirm a positive view subject for the industry to maintain a lot of flexibility, to be very careful and very sensible to catch the new things coming in the business, sustainability for sure, the electrical matter, but also a new kind of product to meet the desire and the wish of the millennials, because in 10 years there will not be millennials anymore, there will be the people buying the boat. So I don't think our work will be easy. I think we have to be very careful, very flexible, and try to catch the new things in advance in respect of the competitors in order to really confirm the positive reaction of the company. So positive, but still a bit worried about the difficulty of going towards.
What difficulties specifically are you referring to?
There is a change in the feeling of how you live. I mean, if I talk with my kids, they are 23 and 25, they have totally different wish and desire that I had 30 years ago. They don't have the desire to go with a motorcycle, they don't want to buy sportive cars anymore. If I do, they question that I make pollution by doing it. So I think there is a future coming with a new factor to be carefully evaluated as part of the industry. We have to be flexible and ready to anticipate what will be the desire of the new buyer in 10 years' time. It will take time, it's not something that is happening tomorrow, but I think that we have to be careful in having the antenna to catch this new new way of life, new style of life.
Yeah, I think that's the point, is that how quickly we adapt to the next, let's say, customer base will be pretty critical in terms of the electric topic you brought up there, Antony, is like, so how quickly can we adapt to that type of thinking in terms of supply chain, manufacturing, and actually engineering a new type of product for the future? It's not it's a 10-year cycle, in theory, isn't it? Or is it less than that?
My view is it's a lot less than that. One of the things that's unique about our industry is we can be very, very nimble.
Sure.
The amount of time and effort to get a new product to market is quite short compared to other industries such as aircraft or automotive. But we need to be clever in the way that we do it.
Yeah.
We're not going to develop the world's most sophisticated electrified powertrain that exists because of the resources that we have, but we can be very, very creative. And I think one thing that Massimo said that's quite right is to try new ideas and be innovative and be different. You do that in order to attract new types of customers, but it's also something that differentiates you and makes you sustainable, because there is a lot of competition in the market. It's a very fragmented market that we're in. Lots of people are making products that are quite similar, and doing something new and interesting and different gives you an opportunity to stand out and have success.
Do you think the market's confusing from what you just described, this myriad of product that's competing so directly?
I'm still trying to figure it out, and I've been here for 4 years. It is. I think people really struggle. A customer would really struggle to go to, who was not a long-time boat buyer, to go to a boat show and try to understand really the difference between one boat and another. They can understand the style, they can understand the living arrangements. Very few are able to understand the technical competence of what's in one yacht as opposed to another. And there's lots and lots of misinformation, which we all tend to spread about each other's boats. So yes, it is complicated, but that's another reason why doing something that technically and conceptually is different really does allow you to stand out and have a unique product that doesn't compare with others.
Yeah, because I think that's what you were saying, Paolo, about attracting the new customer. If a new customer comes around Boot Dusseldorf for the first time, it's like a sort of crazy journey almost to sort of really decide which way he goes or she goes. That to me is one of our problems as a market, is to educate the new client intelligently. So how do we do that better? Maybe Boot could make a change of the way they actually present themselves as a marketplace, but how do we do it better? Because we need new customers.
Paolo?
There's a number of action. First of all, this new generation, which we are all looking after, wants things easy. They want not to have the troubles,
Yes.
not to complicated situation. They want to go boating as easy as possible. So the first thing to do is to try to think how to use the boat in a more simple way. This has got a number of replies. There are some replies from the builder that we have to provide more service, we have to provide assistance, easy access for internet to the know-how of the boat. But also we have to provide a tool. I think the tool is not necessarily to own the yacht, but eventually to charter the yacht, to use the yacht in common with other people. About that, I think the charter is booming, and it shows how it is interesting for people to enjoy the yacht without the trouble. I think we have to launch the charter even in lower segment, because the charter is now booming about 30-35 meters.
Yes.
Something we have to invent to make the charter available in 20, 15, 20, 25 meters. I believe that this is more realistic than fractional ownership or other tentative. If we have a boat, and I mean we have the story of the sailing boat that Benetton wells, why a sailing boat is available for charter and a motorboat is not available charter? Probably there is some difficulties to overcome, but we must overcome those difficulties and make this boat available. The other thing is to give the image that is fashionable to go boating. And if we have boats polluting, it's not fashionable. This young generation will react immediately. And I think let me tell a story. Last summer, I took an 8-meter boat, outboard. I went from Cannes to Sicily. So I've been next to the sea for 2 weeks, enjoying like hell. Don't tell to my clients they have to buy bigger boats. But I mean, being so close to the sea was a fantastic experience. What I've seen the water is polluted a lot.
Yes.
Plastic everywhere. Yeah. We must create, being so close to the water, we must create the culture that we have to clean that water. We have no idea how many bottles have been throwing away on putting on board of my 8-meter outboard boat in order to try to help. And also when some companies are reluctant to say we want to put rules on pollution on the big diesel engine because we account only for 1% of the pollution of the sea, which is nothing. No, not true. We have to control that because the idea of a young guy that sees a boat of 30 meters with 5,000 horsepower going with a Euro 2, Euro 1, Euro 2, whatever, is bad. We must impose ourselves that we are not polluting, even if this pollution is 1% of the drama, because we have to give an image that we are close to the water, close to the young, close to the expectation of the people. We cannot be criticized for that.
Yes. Max, any comments?
Totally agree. It is difficult to understand the future, and mostly it's difficult to understand the timing for the future, because if we have enough time, for sure we will adapt the industry. If not, it will be a problem. So I think that 2020, 2021, the next 24 months will be quite important for defining the next decade of that. In my opinion, there is a strong opportunity in the yacht industry because this is a little study I did a few months ago. This is a chart showing that in the last 6 months...
this is a new form of PowerPoint, by the way.
Sorry, I didn't understand. You were making it so big, so I don't know what is written. Since 2013 to 2018, in the last 6 months, 6 years, sorry, shipyard building more than 24-meter boat, which is our target, reduced from 93 to 51. Yeah. So what that means? It means that there is a strong consolidation, which in my opinion will go on in the next years, and will give opportunity to the biggest, to the top builders, which is here at the floor. And this is good, because one big problem of our industry is the fragmentation. Too many shipyards, too many products. There is not enough profit for the large company to invest in research and development, to invest in the skill of the people, to grow, like it was in the automotive. I sincerely think that the yacht industry is following 20 years behind the automotive, and whatever is happening in the automotive, we should look very careful, because it will happen in the yacht industry. And if you think 20 or 30 years back, you have a lot of brands that are not existing in the car industry anymore. So that consolidation factor is hopefully happening, will hopefully happen in the yacht
Max,
industry.
I think there's a very key point there that you mentioned profitability and the diversity of manufacturing. From my point of view, when I observe this, you almost get to a situation where people are eroding profit all the time by being aggressive on price or underbidding or being fake in their approach to the market. That doesn't help everyone, but it almost destroys the supply chain, which is another problem we have to face. And how do we build a robust, organized, profitable supply chain so we all become stronger together? It really concerns me how the supply chain can be damaged by these players who are not even interested in profit, they're just interested in competing. It seems bizarre. Can I just check? We have, I think, an audio problem with Paolo. Is the AV guy around?
Yes.
You're coming. He's coming. Thank you. Right, so what that means to me is that we're in a situation where the market is almost overloaded with product. overloaded with manufacturers, and supply chain is always sort of complaining about sort of, let's say, their approach to the market in profitability, organizational structures. So what can we change about the supply chain? That's, to me, one of the big factors that we sometimes get wrong in our marketplace. And it affects your businesses.
So I think that in that regard, we're in a quite fragile situation. There are a lot of producers, and what I see with our supply chain are the ones that tend to come to the surface more are either very large, very strong suppliers where we're a very small part of their business and it's complicated, or very small suppliers whose life and death depends on us.
Yeah.
And that's not that's a difficult situation to be in. And I think one of the challenges is, as we try to move forward with trying to respond to some of the challenges we've talked about, the level of sophistication of the supply base has got to change and get better. So Massimo has talked about a potential consolidation of producers.
Yeah.
I think there's also going to be some consolidation of the supply base as well. And
that's in your control in some ways, isn't it?
Not really. You know, we certainly don't deign to be large enough to dictate industry dynamics, but there is an opportunity for those people who are innovative to really come above those who are just trying to supply parts and go the old world, follow the old world. So as we're trying to do new things, suppliers which come with new ideas are going to tend to grow a lot quicker than a lot of the small ones who are out there today.
Yeah, yeah. I think what that means to me is that the industry is going through a cycle now of maturity, or it should focus on the next, as you say, Max, 2 years are very important now to almost mature and reset the objectives of our industry, going on the green agenda, going on the supply chain, organizational structure, to try and make ourselves as an industry more profitable, more stable, because we always hear from clients that they feel that the market is based on whoever can make a bit of money. It's not about how to make a stable business in terms of the yacht space. So that doesn't make clients feel comfortable, which is part of a reputational issue as well, I think. That some customers look at us and say, well, who's making money where? And it becomes very, very sort of question and answer between the client and the broker and the sales process. That doesn't give a good impression, I think, to the new customer. Is that fair?
It is a complex question. Now, in the yacht industry, everybody wants to declare that is the best, that is the biggest, that is number one, and this is a useless competition. I think we also have to ask the media, start evaluating the company, not for I'm number one in motorboat builder, so it's easy for me to say that, but I would like to be evaluated for the revenues, the sale of revenue of my second-hand boats, for my capacity to servicing people, for my reliability in responding, for the punctuality of the delivery, for a number of things which have to make strong this business. And I think the attention should switch. No more size, no more who is number one. For me, it is
who is number one?
Me. No, they are overall, as a business company, Benetti, motorboat and sailing boat. If we consider only motorboat, we are close to 1 billion and we are still number one since 20 years. Having said that, I don't want to repeat too much, and you notice that when we write, we don't impress on that. From now on, you will listen to us writing about being the first one who are building a motorboat of 35 meter Euro 6, like a car, where you add the blue and the filtering system. We want to be the first for that. We want to be the first for protecting the nature. And this, I think, a tendency that has to be followed, very important, to be number one in environment and to be number one in protecting the clients.
I think it's an interesting subject because I think you mentioned the media there. What are your views as individual CEOs of the media today? Because they play a key role in this re-education, refocusing, and also information exchange.
I continue? Who is he?
Yeah.
Well, quickly. We sell dream. And the easy thing for the media is to pick up a dream and to convert it to the dream in a big article. I think is a message I'm giving to the media. Let's stop doing that. Let's try to understand the difference between somebody who's inventing a new boat with a new shape and is totally theoretical with somebody who is providing the resale value very high for the next 10 years of a boat which is selling. So I ask the media, it's an SOS of the media, to try to understand what is really important for this market to help this industry to become more reliable and more solid.
Yes. Antony.
Yeah, I'm probably going to regret what I'm going to say, but having previously come from an industry with a very, very, very critical media, the media is nicely very positive about the industry.
Sycophantic?
No, I don't think so. No. But I think that more focus and more balance to get to the core values. And I think that some of the things that Paolo, I've always gone by the theory that the real key to success is residual values, and that's a really important thing. Now, whether it's easy to measure that is another question or compare. But I think that we're in a moment where this industry is going to have to change, and a little friendly prod from the media might actually help influence customers as well and help move the industry forward.
Yes, agreed. Matt, your comment on media?
I think that the whole industry, not only the builder, the whole industry means the journalist, the media, the broker, the crew, the industry, the builder should increase professionality. In order to increase professionality, I go back to the point of before, consolidation. We need less company, bigger, with the money to invest in skill of the people, in research and development. I think that the industry, which are the 4 people seated here, has a responsibility to start, and then all the rest will follow. One idea, I think we should be more together, I don't know, in the European organization or in our national organization, to put together the biggest company and try to make rules in order to avoid that a simple guy with €1 million will start to build a hull in metal and sell a boat. Because unfortunately the market do not really understand what is behind. So most of the people pushed by the wrong broker may go and buy a boat from a no-name company. This is damaging us very much because we are forced then to reduce our price and not have enough profit to invest and to grow the professionality. Because growing the professionality of the industry, of the builder, will follow the media and all the rest of the. So I think that we have a responsibility, the 4 of us and a few others together, to try to sit around the table like I think the car industry did in the past, and try to put on the table the rules to protect our industry, not to become richer, but to be to have the resources, the asset to invest and to make this business more stable and growing with products which are more respective to the web, to the sustainability, products which are giving more service, giving more to our customers.
I think, Max, the key point is that the customer and his journey and his, let's say, life cycle of ownership is one of the areas we have to focus on as a marketplace. It's not just buying an asset, it's buying a lifestyle that has to be almost, going back to what Paolo said, simplified and less problematic, because we're in a marketplace now where you will not tolerate that sort of disruptive distraction, because ownership in the past has already been distracting. There's been a lot of cases where to own a boat has been the headache, and that becomes part of the rhetoric amongst owners. We have to make sure the actual buying process, ownership process, is almost seamless. The more that journey can be made seamless, the more owners become part of our ambassador network. And that's getting back to this investing in larger companies with better profitability to be able to reinvest into the ownership cycle. To me, that's one of our fundamental goals this next decade almost, to change the ownership approach. Not just in terms of these ownership routes of shared ownership or sort of chartering more, but making ownership easier. It seems to become very, very, even talking about the tax issue earlier on, the complexity is sometimes distracting and makes people think actually it's no longer an easy thing to do. So to me, that's one of the things we have to work on as a marketplace. So it's easy to make that journey, because the word on the dock from owner to potential owner is sometimes negative. And that's that perception we have to change as a fundamental shift, that actually owning a boat is pure pleasure. And it's not pain and price. These are things we have to really address. I'm going to come to you from your Benetti days, and I want to just ask you a question about the sailboat market, which is slightly off tangent here, but where are we heading in the sailboat world? Because to me it's a slight enigma, because they are potentially the greenest options we have for the future. What's your view, Ian?
We have to go back to some of the issues which have been discussed. The boating market is very different to a large extent from the automotive sector. We have a limited basis of customers. We could remember that the basis, we are really living on a triangle. And the top of the triangle is affecting probably less than 10,000 customers worldwide, when the automotive sector is concerning millions of customers. So it is impacting our supply chain, because of course we are a small player compared to the automotive sector. It is also a basis, a triangle, which is based on the very solid capacity that we have to attract new generation to the first step of boating, which can be kitesurf, as well as sailing, sport sailing, and water sports. And this is the first generation, and all the challenge that we have regarding new customers for sail as well as for powerboats is that these new generation, I am talking about, let's say, the 20 years old generation, they are characterized by three elements. They are zapping, so they are changing very rapidly from one activity to another.
Yes.
They are totally digitalized, so you can have access to them only by social networks. And they are tribal, so you cannot address them personally, you have to address them through the group of people they belong to, which is a totally a huge change compared to what was 20 years ago, the way to market our customers. We were marketing by a personal contact, the ownership was the final target. The ownership is not the final target at the first stage. It is to bring the new customer to penetrate the pleasure of boating and to become step by step, by chartering, as well by sharing boats with a group of friends, to have access step by step to the idea that he could be one day an owner. So really, I believe that the future of the sailboat segment is not different to that sense from the powerboat segment. We see a new generation. They are not attracted especially by large rates, large, let's say, events. They want to move zapping from one activity to another, through social media, acting as a group, and we have to offer them the product that they are expecting, which is by obviously different from the family cruising boats that we were offering to our customers 10 or 15 years ago. And we have to offer them the services, the new services, and the new digitalized access, which is totally a change for us as well as for our dealer network. And this is the major change for our customers' relationship for the near future. Giving again in mind that we have a limited basis of customers, I always used to say we have 70% of the population who would like to boat, but we are capable to bring boating only 2%. So we have potentially a very large resource. The question is how to make them economically and socially customers.
Yes. Yeah. The question on that is if I ask the three motor yacht specialists in terms of the customer today, how many brand new first-time customers are you discovering per annum versus upselling existing customers? What's the sort of the activity like from brand new customers, first-time buyers?
I don't have a clear figure, but if I have to guess, 55% are repeated customer, between 50 and 60% are repeated client, and 40% are new client.
New clients as in never had a boat or have moved from one boat to your boat?
40% never had a boat. Don't forget that we sell enormously worldwide.
Yeah.
So if we make this evaluation in Europe, probably 80% are repeated client.
Yes. Yeah.
But fortunately for us, a lot of the emerging countries are creating newcomers which want to challenge the yachting holiday, starting sometime from quite a large size. So in total, difficult to make an evaluation, but 50 to 60, I think, is the right average. 80% in Europe or America, and much more in the emerging countries.
Antony?
Yeah, I think, I mean, my impression in the mature markets is it's a much lower number than it should be. The reflection that we make is if you look at the number of people who can afford to buy a yacht and might have the inclination to spend money to have a very nice holiday at the seaside, they just prefer to do it on solid ground as opposed to on a boat because it all seems, as you correctly said, very, very complicated. And the ease of ownership, which is the ease of purchase, the getting over the fact of how complicated is it to actually own one of these products and how complicated is it to operate one of our yachts, is something that we need to take a huge step forward in order to do this. And the analogy that I give is super sports cars, where if you go back to the 1960s or 70s or 80s even, to drive a Ferrari was a complicated thing. Yeah, the clutch was heavy, the gear shift was notchy. If you were in wet weather, you could spin the car very easily. And now they're dead reliable, and your grandmother could do a very quick lap on the Nordschleife in the Nürburgring. So it's easy, and the sales of these cars have gone up by 300%, 400%, 500% over that period. And so we need to do the same thing to make it easy for everyone, make it simple, understandable, and not intimidating. Yeah.
Max?
I would say very, very few new customer coming in the market buying Sanlorenzo. Probably Sanlorenzo, well, consider we build only 50 boats per year, so it's a more limited number in respect of the competitors. And probably the image of the brand is more conservative, so people are buying Sanlorenzo if they have already experience in the yachting. Very, very few are coming. I think that the industry has a responsibility to improve the quality of the yacht, but more than that, the service, to try to give to the customer almost zero problem, no headaches, because Antony's absolutely right. People are refrained to go boating because it's too difficult. Yeah. The crew is a problem, the mariners is a problem, the costs are too high. So I think that, again, we should follow the automotive industry. And you see today how much of the effort of the automotive industries is put in the service to the customer. They force you to go every 10,000 or 15,000 kilometers to do the service. You pay a lot of money, but if you don't do it, there is a ring every time you switch the car saying you have to do it, you have to do it. So I think we have to follow that idea to make more service, to organize better our service to the customer in order to reduce the problems and get more people.
Yeah. We've been saying that for a long time, though. The question is how and when do you think that will change? Because we're very slow to move those sort of smart ideas forward because we're almost stuck in a sales pipeline that becomes obsessed. I'm trying to look at when do you think this transition will really take shape? Because I've heard it many, many years now, we have to simplify the ownership route. But we're not necessarily seeing that happen or being presented to market yet that I've seen. I may be wrong, but are people now presenting easier ownership routes that are more transparent?
It has already changed. I mean, if you are considering different segments of the market, if you take, for instance, we were talking about the sailing boats segment. If you take boats from 55 to 60 feet, sailing boats, a lot of customers today make the choice of a solution of boat management, where they are investing in the boats, but contracting with a service company to manage the boat, to maintain the boat, eventually to rent the boat in order to cover part of their cost. So this is existing. The question is more at what speed it could progressively move to higher size boats, which is of course a question of costs and complexity, because it's easier for a sailboat of 45 feet. It's probably much more difficult for a 40 meters motor yachts.
Won't change so much, in my view, the size. What is changing is the quality of the dealer. Today, the yachting industry does not produce a product so perfect as a car, which can make 200,000 kilometers without any problem. So I go back to 10 or 20 years ago, when the car were getting better and better, but still have some problems. Who was solving the problem? The dealer. Today is the same story. With a good dealer, you immediately have very happy client, repeated client, and this concern of considering yachting a pain in the ass is not existing anymore. It's a pleasure. So I think in small boats, training the dealers, we have a school internally to train the dealers, is resolving part of this problem. With big yachts, the equivalent is done by a good professional broker. As Massimo was saying, we need professional brokers. Fortunately, we have many of them. And when a professional broker is capable to assist a client in a yacht in the segment above the dealer range, 25 meters up, generally we have an happy client. So training, same as you were mentioned before, we need to train the supply chain because they have to be up to a modern industry. We have to train the sales force, and particularly short term, until we will be perfect with the product, the dealer network and the broker network is essential.
Yeah, I think human resources are a key part of this problem as well, aren't they? The people that actually build and operate and maintain the fleet is another part of our, let's say, future problem. Where do we find the next generation to do this for us? And you really, I think, maybe say another comment then.
Yeah, I think I'm going to touch on what Massimo said earlier about scale and about fragmentation. The reality is while we are here representing three of the larger yacht producers in the world, we're all three of us still very, very small companies by the scale of automotive or other
Big
businesses.
industry, yeah.
And so if you look at startup businesses, especially in the mobility space, the key for them is to take more and more control over the complete ownership experience, which doesn't necessarily mean selling boats and other things, but really going into the whole after sales and controlling that. Now, the problem that we have, the challenge that we have, is we're small companies, and it's very, very difficult to say, if I wanted to do that right now for Princess and say, we're going to do all the things that are on the list of things that we think up every day and we'd like to do, I probably need to double the size of the company to do that. And so the scale is not enough to be as professional as we all would love to be. And the challenge is how can we grow the company at a level which is going to come from being more professional in the ownership, in managing the ownership experience, and not overstretch ourselves.
Yeah. It's a balancing act. Right, okay. I'm going to just quickly touch on investors, external investors. Obviously, you floated in November, is that right?
10th of December.
And yeah, sorry. It's like, how investable is our marketplace?
Do you have another question?
I was going to ask him for some money afterwards.
Again, it's not easy. It's hard to say because there is too many people, but it was like to go to hell and came back. Why? Because I would like very much to go back to the first idea. We need to consolidate. We need to have less player in the market. We need the player to make more money because we have to invest and grow this business. Unfortunately, the market do not help because the customer try to cut corners and buy boats for less money because they think that we make a lot of money because our prices are crazy and so forth. And you have a lot of experience of rich people, very successful in different fields, coming to the yacht industry and failing badly, losing a lot of money with company going to bankrupt. The investor perception is not high. They consider this business cyclical, which is in a certain way they're right. But I think that the past 20 years, the experience we gave to the financial market was not very good. We have, Icon, Rodriguez, many other bad experience. They all remember, because they're on the market, they remember everything. So I think that, again, altogether, the top player, there are only 5 or 6, there are not many. No. So I think that if we have the courage to sit a couple of times per year around the table, I think we can do a lot. I really believe in that. And by doing that, we will help our company to be better, but I think we will have the whole industry. We will help the whole industry to be better. We need to improve the level of professionality. We need to make more money. We need to have to be more stable. And I would advise my competitors to look for the stock exchange, because in my opinion is a modern, good way to look to the future. Benetti is listed since 30 years, I think, yes. 25, 30 years, and they have been growing enormously. I am feeling already the benefit of what I did. Again, it is not easy, but it's one way. It's not only the only way, but I think it's one way to help this industry to grow, to consolidate, and to be stronger for the future.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Right. Where are the microphones? Microphones? Any questions from the floor? We've got about 7 or 8 minutes of questions. Roberta, always. The microphone's coming. Run, please.
Intelligent boats, because I mean, artificial intelligence. So the question is, on one side, you could aim at making boats more simple, so less complicated. On the other side, there might be an additional complication, which is making boats that can answer to any need of the customer. Nowadays, we are already used to enter our car and put a question, take me to Genoa, whatever. Do you think this will be a part of the future also for the boats? Self-mooring boats, boats which can answer the customer when he enters the yacht saying, okay, you have 50% of the tank, you should make let's say, the controls in a couple of weeks and so on. Are you looking to this kind of future? Thanks.
Thank you. Isn't that the cruise job? Any comment? Artificial intelligence and...
It is the case.
Yeah, I mean, sure. You stole my line. I was going to say, as long as the crew is called Alexa. We're going to be followers on this, simply because I don't think any of us has the investment, skills, or will and inclination to start a whole electronics department within our companies to do bespoke automation. If you look at a car company, the things that you said on a car, the investment on that just for one model might be $30 or $40 million, which is probably several years of investment for our companies, for our whole product line. However, this stuff has gone from being very bespoke and difficult to come by to being things that you can find on a phone. And so you will find, I think, that a lot of the interfaces will be such that it becomes easier and easier to do. Not necessarily as technology leaders, but as followers. Again, we would not want to do something that ends up being complicated and finicky and doesn't work, because that would just scare customers. All customers really want to do is to be able to get in to their boats and turn on the hi-fi and know how to do it, or turn on the television without complication. And we need to use that technology that exists to try to make that as simple as possible.
I agree with Antony, totally. On top, I want to underline what is the different purpose of a car and of a boat. Today, 99% of the purpose of a car is to go from A to B, and you have to want with the greatest simplicity. You go boating to enjoy navigation, but not just to go A to B, to enjoy, to be in control, to drive your boat, to know what happens around you. So I think it's less necessary to have this automation for the year to come. So I think what is really necessary is to have the reliability. When you go on board and you have reliability, you have done 95% of the task.
I think also, Robert, there's a lot of what I call added complexity in our market that's unnecessary. We sometimes put systems on board which are ego-driven by people advising the client, not by the client themselves. I think there's a lot of things we could simplify if we chose things that are very well proven, or technology that would apply to any boat but aren't yachting focused, because we have all these supply chain experts saying, we've got the latest piece of technology, it's going to change your life. They spend 3 years making it work when it's on board. That almost is part of our problem in the market. We sell a dream that doesn't always work and becomes an expensive nightmare. Yes, thank you.
Good evening.
Is it evening? Wow.
Nice having the top brands here. Do you think the future, if somebody invests to your equity, is also to build up renting and leasing abilities like the car industry did 20 years ago? So you have, let's say, Princess or Sanlorenzo leasing or rental. So you have another arm which gives also kind of financial services execution plus the customer experience. Thank you.
Max?
Yes, absolutely yes. Well, I think that Benetti already does that, is and this is probably because you are very much ahead in the stock market. They have a company that you are financing your customers.
Yes,
your
a
dealer.
leasing company. Yeah.
You have company doing the charter. So for sure, yes, we have to increase the service. We just started 1 month ago a company called High-End Services, which will take care of leasing, financing, servicing, chartering, long-term renting and things like that. It is starting for the starting factor for Sanlorenzo. We are going to test that company with Blue Game, which is one little brand we have, which is a kind of a research development, not only in product but in the whole factor, because we like to test what is a good result and then to move it to the Sanlorenzo brand. So for sure, yes, I think we are going to do it, and I think that all the industry will move in that direction.
Any comment?
Yes, there is one. Probably we have to imagine the future with a capacity of offering a rather large range of services, keeping in mind that these services are very fragmented in the worldwide market, on the financial, on the lease, on the maintenance, and they are not obviously easy to bring to profitability.
Yes.
So it's a need, but it's also a management challenge. That's the point, because it's not exactly the same type of industrial management and marketing management as the one we are familiar with.
It's a mind shift, though.
Yeah.
It's possible to do because automotive and aviation do make it quite financially successful.
Yeah,
we just have to adapt to that.
If I may remember, I mean, Antony, you are better expert than me about the automotive sector. But we had a time where all the major brands in the automotive sector, they invested a lot of money in the renting business, and then all of them sold out their company. Yves was the property of, and so on, I mean, Europcar. And now they are re-entering into a different way of renting.
Yes.
So
the BMW type model.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's really a very challenging change.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Joachim from Q Yachts, Finland. And Finland being the neighboring country with Sweden, I will take the liberty of being the Greta Thunberg of the audience. So the question is, are you prepared to put your money where your mouth is with regards to truly develop yachting into a more sustainable way? And that would, of course, imply making a shift in the investments of your company to R&D, and maybe even doing what was already suggested, which I think is a brilliant idea, is as an industry jointly to investigate in more sustainable technologies, because the problem is the industry is rather small in comparison to automotive or ship industry. And second question is just out of pure interest, are you already considering hydrogen fuel cell with electric propulsion, any of your companies? Thank
Antony,
you.
please.
Yeah, so
First question.
Yes is the answer to your question. And it's not we're considering, we already have. So just as a little bit of background, when people talk about sustainability, there's an immediate gut reaction to say electrification.
Yes.
And personally, I'm completely bought into electrification, involved with electric car companies, but boating is a little bit different than cars because water is a lot more viscous than air is. So having a boat with the range that our customers expect, we did a calculation. If you wanted to completely electrify one of our yachts, we'd need to have another yacht just to carry the batteries.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean that we cannot be investing to do things which are going to make substantive and notable improvements in the efficiency and the emissions of our boats. So one example of which we did spend quite a bit of R&D for a company our size is our R35 yacht that we launched a year ago here, which is fully carbon fiber, but it has a very unique hull form that actually reduces the amount of drag in the water by 30% at cruising speeds. So actually, from a pure sustainability standpoint, that has far more impact than having a hybrid powertrain in a boat that would allow you to go electrically for 15 or 20 minutes before you turn the engines on and went. So I think we need to be broad and understand what that means in the nautical context. It's not about doing symbolic things of saying we're going to make an electric this or a hybrid this that doesn't really have much of an impact, but how can we do a completely integrated package and rethink the yacht so that in its totality it is more sustainable and does things. And
the life cycle element.
Yeah, and we are investing and we have invested and we're taking it seriously, even though we're frankly ahead of our customers, to be blunt. A lot of them sort of look at us and say, well, that's great, but I don't really care. But we're doing it because we think it's the right thing to do.
Paolo, please.
I think the question of the Finnish gentleman is very interesting because in this moment the industry is split in two. Those who want implementation of IMO rules applying in America and in north of Europe, also for the Mediterranean. And those who do not want this, they want to postpone that moment because they are not ready to be IMO responding, which means the SCR catalytic system in the exhaust of the boat. We, Azimut Benetti, not only we are in favor to implement these rules on 2021 in January. Otherwise, all we said up to now about willing to be eco-friendly and respectful of the ambient is bullshit, is a nonsense. So I recommend my colleagues, boat builder, to accelerate the process. Our boats are totally in redesigning in order to be able to meet within the time limit of 2021 these rules. And actually, we are building right now 2 boats which have MCR. And when we talk about MCR means the catalytic system, which is making equivalent to a car. And when we talk to the subject of electricity, nobody has to forget that the hybrid car or the electric car is retaining some of his energy or is gaining some of the energy by braking or decelerating. On the sea, you don't have downhill, you don't decelerate, you always go to the same speed. So you don't have a creation of electricity. So when you think about hybrid boat, you have to give a totally different response to cars. One of the response, which we're giving in our prototypes of hybrid, is to make them free from any generation activity during the night.
Yes.
Even a yacht of 40, 50 meters, we are building at the moment, we are delivering 110 meters, which has got 60 tons of battery, where you can switch off the generators in night and be in an environment where protected without damaging the nature. So, first is the moment to prove ourselves that what we say is becoming reality. So my message is to my colleagues and competitors, let's show that we are friendly with the environment. And secondly, let's work to give the right interpretation of what that means for boats, which is totally different from any other segment.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Max, final comment, please.
Totally agree. The hotellerie is the way to go, because the other way today doesn't exist. But then consider that most of our customers are not really sailing a lot. They go out at sea and they drop the anchor and they stay the whole day. And if the whole day is on battery instead of a generator, it is already an improvement. Second point, as Antony says, we don't have the assets in our company, we don't have the skill, we don't have the money to spend in research and development to really do some special push to the sustainability. We have to rely to the engine manufacturer.
Yeah.
Coming back to Paolo's idea, I totally agree we should show good faith in terms of pushing our company to be more sustainable. But Monday, I have a meeting with 4 engine manufacturers as part of the Nautical Fédération of Italy, because this SCR filter, which we should install in our boat since from the 1st January 2021, are putting in very high difficulty the engine manufacturer because they are not ready.
Yeah.
What they say is they are ready to go to a cruising speed of 24 knots. We have records of our customer going most of the time at 10 and 12 knots. If you go with the planning hull at 10 or 12 knots all time, the filter will explode. Yeah. So we have to sit at the table and talk with these people because the engine manufacturer probably do not have the real idea how our customers are using the boat. So for sure, we have to make an effort against pollution, but I think that this industry has to sit at the table and talk more.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Just to answer the last question that the gentleman had, the hydrogen thing is a technology that's been 10 years away for the last 20 years. So when it's available, for sure, it makes a lot of sense to put in a boat. But companies like Hyundai and Daimler have been investing literally billions of dollars, and we would not hope to be able to do our own thing. But if it's available, we can do it. But the key is not to focus on a technical solution, which to a certain extent the SCR is or hybrid is, but to focus on what are all the things that we can do, from powertrain to hull form to whatever, to reduce the emissions of our boats.
Yeah. Okay. One final point, I think, and then I must move over to John.
Okay. My name is Thomas Steden. Sorry. Thanks for the micro. Now I really can confirm what Antony has told us just now. And we heard also a lot of things about Yves when he was talking about the market and clients and how customers are changing or how the market is changing. I think the most problem nobody is talking about is that we forgot it's not only a technical point. So as we heard just now, it's more a social point now. People are changing. So when we know now today that there is not such a big market for buying or owning such a super yacht or a yacht, so what is the reason really? In my opinion, the world is falling apart in two parts. So we have the one who have the money, what is very nice, and interests are so low, so it's so easy to buy a yacht at the moment. At the other side, we have people who are not brave enough to stand for the luxury things, and because they are afraid about to be blamed. We can talk a lot of things about what is possible to give a positive footprint for the environmental, but it's not the real reason. I think the future of the industry in the next 10, 20 years will change completely. So as we know it now from the e-mobility, that you need some charging points. But I think we heard before lunchtime, our industry, or the marine industry, the super yacht industry, has a lot of effort to the environment, to people. We heard this in a very nice, I forgot now the name from the person before lunch, what is possible. So I think there is needed some more, a kind of union. No, it's not the right word I'm using now, but when you are offering yachts, you need to offer also the places where the yachts can feel well, where the yachts can show what is, where the industry can show, including all the people working around, what is positive, how they can change the world to the best. So not be ashamed of, not talking about technical points, but going forward and see that's a very nice industry.
I agree. Thank you very much indeed for your comment. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I'd rather wrap up now because I'm nearly, over time now. John will kill me. But thank you. Really interesting.